For decades, we've explored the stars, not merely for planets, not merely for signals, but for anomalies. Those scarce instances when something in the cosmos declines to follow the rules. And now the James Webb Space Telescope might have discovered precisely that. What started as a standard observation of the third interstellar object ever noted in our solar system, 3I Atlas, has evolved into something much stranger, much darker, and endlessly more significant. Because deep in the immense cold emptiness past Mars, the Webb spotted something it shouldn't have. Not simply light, artificial light. A radiance that acts like no comet or asteroid. A mark that adheres to no recognized physics of reflection or refraction. And now astronomers and astrophysicists face one question that freezes them to the bone. What is 3I Atlas truly? Remain with us as we plunge deep into the data that has just rekindled the oldest and most frightening question ever. Are we alone? 3I Atlas was initially detected as a dim spot on the solar system's fringe, traveling with a path no local object could mimic. It was obviously interstellar, formed outside the gravitational hold of our sun, hurled across the galaxy by some unidentified force, now gliding quietly through our vicinity. At first, it was regarded as a cosmic oddity like its forerunners, Oumuamua and Borisov. But even in its initial pictures, something seemed wrong. Unlike most interstellar objects, 3I Atlas was exceptionally bright, and not in a sensible way. Its magnitude didn't match its projected size or makeup. It shimmered with an unnatural steadiness. Its brightness neither dimming as anticipated nor surging with any indication of outgassing or dust discharge. Traditional comets usually brighten in spurts as ice sublimates, but this one stayed constant as if powered from inside. Telescopes worldwide pivoted to watch it, and Webb, with its unmatched capacity to look into the infrared range, was enlisted to unravel the enigma. What it observed altered everything. The James Webb Space Telescope, stationed a million miles from Earth at the Lagrange point, was built to perceive the unperceived, to slice through the shine of stars and uncover what's concealed in the shadows. Its focus on 3I Atlas was supposed to resolve the bewilderment. Instead, it intensified it. The telescope's tools identified a centralized heat emission that didn't align with any natural sunlight reflection. Normally, a comet gleams from the sun's rays rebounding off dust and ice. But 3I Atlas displayed an inner heat mark, something that emanated from a center outward. This wasn't diffused light. It was released light. The heat mapping disclosed a pattern that matched no known spread curve of natural bodies. It throbbed, faintly, unevenly, and most alarmingly, it appeared to repeat at intervals. That cadence cycling ever so subtly implied not chance, but design. Some researchers at NASA and the European Space Agency suggested exotic accounts, radioactive breakdown, underground friction, foreign isotopes. But as additional data arrived, those ideas fell apart. The sole consistent explanation remaining was the one nobody wished to note. This object could be energized as information from Webb, Hubble, and ground observatories accumulated. A portrait of 3I Atlas started to form, and it resembled nothing like any familiar celestial entity. Its path was too exact to be haphazard, as if it was selecting its route, finely tweaking course via gravity wells. Its spin was abnormally steady, with a tumbling action that challenged typical inertial shift, and its absence of a cometary tail, even nearing solar radiation, indicated a shell or enclosure, maybe something shielding it from the warmth. Then arrived the most debated discovery, the albedo or Surface reflectivity was gauged to be almost flawless in sections, nearing that of refined metal, not rock, not ice, not dust metal. The ramification struck like a shock wave through the astronomical world. If it was metallic, organized, and radiating energy, then we weren't viewing a natural body anymore. We were viewing technology. Abruptly, the word probe was murmured in corridors, beacon, vessel, even relic. The notion that this could be an alien spacecraft was no longer confined to conspiracy sites. It was now softly spreading in institutional emails behind secure firewalls. Maybe the most condemning evidence wasn't the heat emissions or the path or the odd metallic mark. It was the light. Photometric study revealed something chilling. The light from 3I Atlas was concentrated in a narrow spectrum range. In other terms, it wasn't a wide natural sunlight reflection, but a managed release of particular wavelengths. This is exactly what we achieve with LED setups, laser comm systems, and spacecraft beacons. Moreover, this range included frequencies commonly employed in Earth communication and guidance systems. Not just that, but the light's strength appeared to react ever so faintly to solar radiation, as if some internal system was modifying it live. It flickered not randomly, but with a peculiar intermittent throb. Astronomers processed the data via known signal patterns. What they obtained was uncertain, but not pointless. Some asserted the throbs looked like binary chains. Others suggested it could be a spinning power supply. But the verdict was irrefutable. This wasn't a passive body. It was performing something intentional, and we were observing it in real time. As the information flooded in, a group of astrophysicists from MIT and Harvard conducted a thorough signal review over the electromagnetic releases from 3I Atlas. At initial view, the frequencies appeared haphazard, mere noise, dispersed across the range. But when they used Fourier transforms to separate repeating patterns, something surfaced. Inside the noise, hidden like a murmur under the disorder, was a structured recurring pulse too accurate to be natural. It wasn't a regular binary, nor a common modulation in human tech, but it carried the clear hallmark of deliberate encoding. Some guess it might be a beacon, a looping transmission meant for non-earthly receivers. Others thought it could be telemetry, a steady data flow dispatched back to its origin. The disturbing aspect was this. Whatever the content was, it hadn't altered since the Webb first spotted it. It was as if 3I Atlas wasn't attempting to communicate with us, but another, and perhaps that other had already received it. Word of the find circulated swiftly through the top tiers of scientific and defense bodies. A secret report shared internally at NASA and then disclosed to an anonymous journalist showed that senior officials were already collaborating with worldwide space agencies to assess if 3I Atlas presented a risk. Some experts contended it was harmless, an old probe maybe, hundreds of years aged on a preset path through the stars. Others lacked such optimism. They posed queries nobody could resolve. If it's sending, then who receives? If it emits light, does it possess propulsion too? If it's here intentionally, then why this moment? The report noted the chance, however distant, that 3I Atlas wasn't merely transiting, but watching, monitoring planetary positions, electromagnetic zones, or even evolved societies. The chance sparked alarm behind closed doors, because if this object wasn't solitary, then something else could be approaching, something that dispatched it. Deeper probe into the brightness of 3I Atlas resulted in a groundbreaking theory that the object wasn't simply releasing energy, it was gathering it. The manner the object's light production varied with its closeness to the sun, paired with its evident lack of chemical responses, backed the concept that it could be employing a solar gathering array or photonic uptake system buried under its exterior. Low and a cadre of theorists suggested that the dust clouds encircling the object might fulfill two roles, both as disguise to conceal its man-made build and as a means to soak up solar radiation. If accurate, this would indicate that 3I Atlas is a self-maintaining craft engineered to journey endlessly through deep space, recharging as it shifts from star to star. This idea matches recognized theoretical designs of interstellar probes, devices that could stay inactive for centuries, energizing only upon entering a star system deserving examination. And if our solar system activated that energizing, then the signal was acknowledged. As global space agencies race for solutions, one fact grew ever clearer. We are unprepared, despite years of guessing about alien contact. Our frameworks, political, scientific, philosophical, are vastly ill-equipped to handle what 3I Atlas could signify. No formal announcements were issued, but leaked papers from agencies in France, Japan, and Brazil all suggested comparable verdicts that this object might not merely be an outlier, but a initial meeting in gradual motion. And, unlike Hollywood's lessons, there was no descent, no abrupt sky emergence, no instant resolutions, only facts, only light, only quiet. The web persists in watching the object daily, yet every solution it provides appears to generate two additional queries. If this is contact, then it's contact on their conditions, not ours. Silent, remote, disquieting. And that could be the most horrifying element, because what we're seeing might not be in welcome. It might be monitoring, and we might have already been noticed. Just as astronomers thought 3I Atlas had stabilized into a foreseeable path, something unforeseen occurred. Its brightness surged sharply. This wasn't a slow rise from nearing the sun. It was an abrupt blaze recorded live by the James Webb Telescope and verified by various ground observatories. The object's luminance rose by almost 40% in less than 2 minutes, then held at a fresh higher level. No natural account matched the facts. There was no evidence of solar wind engagement, no collision incident, no fragmentary breakdown. It was as if someone or something had activated a switch. The blaze wasn't merely visible. It brought a shift in the object's heat mark, nearly as if systems had activated. Theorists suggested a freezing possibility that this object had begun an alert stage, either sparked by its nearness to our star or by our observations. And if this blaze was a purposeful deed, that was intended to be observed. Soon after the unusual brightening, orbital computations from several space agencies spotted something more. 3I Atlas no longer exactly traced its forecasted route. It had moved faintly, subtly, but noticeably. Gravity solely couldn't explain the change. Even solar radiation force, frequently cited as an excuse for minor path shifts in light objects, didn't compute. This alteration was intentional, and more disturbing was where the updated path directed further into the solar system with a modified tilt that drew it nearer to Earth's orbital plane. The object wasn't just transiting anymore. It had essentially switched paths. Some researchers urged caution, labeling it a gravitational oddity, but others viewed the move as action, a faint course adjustment that no comet or stone had ever executed. And if 3I Atlas was able to even restricted propulsion or steering, it signified we weren't observing a remnant anymore. We were viewing a craft moving, a craft with purpose. As the object moved within scope of spectroscopic tools on the web and Hubble telescopes, scientists started to identify elements and mixtures that triggered more alerts, hints of highly reflective alloys, scarce Earth elements, and most startlingly, spectral absorption. Lines similar to compounds never previously listed in our periodic table were found. These weren't the sorts of substances one would discover in an icy lump of interstellar stone. They were crafted, or at minimum, created under conditions unknown to occur naturally. One spectral outline, aligned with no recognized chemical method, but strongly resembled hypothetical compounds suggested in quantum material facilities, materials believed to exist only under extreme magnetic fields or quantum restriction. This find suggested either unimaginable antiquity, indicating the object precedes human society by thousands of years, or highly progressed recent creation by a society well beyond ours. The essence of the materials declared louder than any transmission, because even if we couldn't interpret the content, the courier itself was unnatural, with growing proof indicating a non-natural source. Governments and agencies started responding, not openly, but with clear haste. Encryption standards rose on. Observatory systems, research groups were silently relocated. A abrupt, unaccounted increase in satellite realignments was observed across various continents. Space-capable countries began private contingency talks in secrecy. One disclosed document from a global defense alliance implied that 3I Alice might not be a single guest, but a scout. The object's atypical build, its steady spin, and its evident ability to stay functional over interstellar spans pointed to design, matching long-range observation probes. But if it was scouting, what was it seeking? And more alarmingly, what could follow? Across schools, observatories, and military hubs, one horrifying agreement was shaping. We weren't alone in the universe anymore, and the initial contact might not be a dialogue, but an assessment. As the conjecture hit a peak, a daring group at the SETI Institute chose to attempt the gamble nobody else would. They sent a concentrated radio burst straight toward the estimated spot of 3I Atlas. The content held universal math constants, the periodic table, and simple visual depictions of humanity. It was designed as a cosmic greeting. A weary hello. Days went by, then a week. No reply. Encryption standards rose on. Observatory systems, research groups were silently relocated. A abrupt, unaccounted increase in satellite realignments was observed across various continents. Space-capable countries began private contingency talks in secrecy. One disclosed document from a global defense alliance implied that 3I Atlas might not be a single guest, but a scout. The object's atypical build, its steady spin, and its evident ability to stay functional over interstellar spans pointed to design, matching long-range observation probes. But if it was scouting, what was it seeking? And more alarmingly, what could follow? Across schools, observatories, and military hubs, one horrifying agreement was shaping. We weren't alone in the universe anymore, and the initial contact might not be a dialogue, but an assessment. As the conjecture hit a peak, a daring group at the SETI Institute chose to attempt the gamble nobody else would. They sent a concentrated radio burst straight toward the estimated spot of 3I Atlas. The content held universal math constants, the periodic table, and simple visual depictions of humanity. It was designed as a cosmic greeting. A weary hello. Days went by, then a week. No reply. But just as the trial was nearing archive, as another unheeded shout into the void, one of the tracking sites in Chile logged something odd. A narrow band reply pulse off frequency, warped but clearly timed to echo the initial content. It wasn't a response in words. It wasn't a reflection. It was a ping, a return transmission with just enough difference to suggest it wasn't passive bounce. It had been handled. It had been dispatched back. But what rattled the SETI group most wasn't the transmission itself. It was the schedule. Because the answer arrived exactly 72 hours post-transmission to the second. It signified something had not merely taken our content, it had figured the lag and responded purposefully. After spotting the return, ping, observatories globally began facing technical oddities. Webb's infrared tools displayed irregular heat mapping for the initial time post-launch, and Hubble's Euro sensors noted tiny variations despite firm positioning. Ground telescopes faced what were first ignored as program errors, shifted star maps, unexplained pixel warps, and halted data flows exactly when aimed at 3i Atlas. But these errors didn't occur haphazardly. They happened in synced intervals, as if orchestrated, as if someone or something didn't desire us examining too near. A concept arose from a covert ops think tank deep in the European Space Agency. The object wasn't merely releasing signals. It was disrupting us, intervening selectively. The consequences were immense. A passive guest doesn't conceal its nature. A scout does. If the object was actively controlling what we could observe, and when we could observe it, then we weren't monitoring it. We were being permitted to, and then quiet. Within days of the transmission event, and the tech failures, updates from Webb were postponed, limited, and finally diverted. Public records were no longer reachable. The European Space Agency issued an ambiguous note about tool recalibration. NASA just ceased remarking. Even respected publications that had covered 3i Atlas intently started withdrawing articles or releasing neutral overviews lacking specifics. The astrophysics circle was divided. Some thought the agencies were laboring to confirm the find before public release. Others thought something much darker, that the reality had been verified and was now contained. The few leftover independent observatories started sharing raw data streams publicly, but these were rapidly overwhelmed in a deluge of disinformation and guesswork. What was once a worldwide scientific puzzle had become a strategic resource, and history has demonstrated what occurs when governments label a find as classified. Truth perishes in quiet, in a desperate bid to grasp what they were seeing. An alliance of astronomers and mathematicians resorted to pattern detection and probability concepts. They weren't seeking communication any longer. They were seeking evidence of purpose, and that's when they uncovered the most horrifying pattern ever. The object's route through the solar system, though apparently natural, echoed a Fibonacci arc when graphed against planetary locations, an old spiral of proportional elegance seen throughout nature, and coincidentally in numerous Earth communication methods. Moreover, the timing of its route, adjustments, the light surges, and even the ping reply aligned with prime number chains. The chances of this happening naturally were astronomically slim. These patterns were selected. It signified this object 3i Atlas wasn't merely soaring through the solar system. It was guiding with mathematical accuracy, as if tracing a chart or a timeline. A few theorists now murmured the unimaginable. This might not be an interstellar probe. It might be an interstellar content, not composed of sound or signs, but of conduct. And we just interpreted the initial term. As the haze of bewilderment starts to clear, one fact stays impossible to dismiss. 3i Atlas was never merely a stone from the unnatural radiance it released to the transmission it sent back. From the scarce substances to the computed path shift, every element of this mystery directs to a soul uneasy verdict. We have not been solitary for a long time, and maybe we were never intended to learn. The James Webb Telescope, constructed to gaze into the origin of galaxies, might have instead glimpsed something built to gaze back, something old, purposeful, and observing, not from the security of a far star system, but from the edge of our own stellar vicinity. And yet, quiet prevails. The agencies decline to talk. The facts are retained. The world, it appears, has been judged unprepared. But we observe the radiance. We follow the route. And now we pose the query that scares even the most logical minds. What follows? Was 3I Atlas just transiting, logging our small world before resuming its trip? Or was it only the initial of several? A probe paving the path for something larger, something awaiting a cue to advance. Ultimately, it may not count whether 3I Atlas was device or something else. Altogether, what counts is that it arrived. It observed and it answered. And now, somewhere in the cold, boundless void, something might be directing its focus toward the blue world that signaled. First, the countdown maybe has already started, and the universe once more reminds us we are not the hub. We are the watched. I'd love to hear what you think about this, so drop a comment below. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please share this video and subscribe to help the channel grow. Every bit of support counts.